Hello, everyone.
It's very difficult to discuss after such an emotionally charged documentary. Thank you, Hanifa, for being here. Thank you, Hanna, for your efforts in this work. We will discuss in English, but part of the discussion will be in Kurmanji, in Kurdish. And we have the possibilities for translation from English to French and from Kurdish, Kurmanji to French as well. My name is Viken Cheterian, and I will be moderating this discussion. And I would like to start with a question to Hanifa. You are the central figure of this documentary. We see the experience of the Firman of 2014 through your eyes, through your experience. You see the film for the first time. You didn't see this before. This was very emotional. Of course, there's the pain, the suffering, the losses, the wounds. But also there are moments where you laugh to discover your dear ones who escape from captivity. The question that I want to ask is, what are your reactions while watching this film? How do you feel now? And whether you have any ideas, thoughts that you want to add after seeing this film.
So, what so your first question was what I understand, you are saying you're laughing when you're supporting someone else.
What I meant was that the film was full of emotions, both of suffering, but also moments of happiness to see people liberated from captivity. So this is very polarizing, emotional film. So I wanted to ask you how you feel now, and especially if you want to add anything after seeing the film.
عاطفيا جارة مساعدتك يعني إنه مساعدة حوالي خبقي جارة كنيجي مثلا وقتي عاطفيا فيلمي بزحمة بو بس بترتم يعني تدعمه أوتي نفسيا تدعمه حوالي خدك من هون تشهد بيني مثلا بشتي أو فيلم ديتي وشتي يعني كان هو مثلا تكاري شيء إضافة بقيش مرة بصورة عامة يعني هو شو قديش
I saw what I have been faced and saw it was very strong, and in this documentary film I were very strong in some time because I were also in need like some other peoples, and I tried to give them some power to continue. And the second, and the vulnerability people, I saw them, and in some time I was in their situation. I couldn't manage to find any way else, and then I were feeling always there is some strong people behind me supporting me, like Nawaf Ashur. This is give me more help and support to continue to speak and ask for the vulnerability voice, and to be encouraging them to look for their people who have been missed. And I will continue what I say to fight for that. I remember how we start with this documentary film with Hanna, and it's involved many different stories, but more main about Yezidi genocide. at least to documenting it, because just to keep it as a documentary, 74 genocide has happened, and documenting our story and encouraging some others how I was strong and how I get energy, and encouraging me to save my family members for others to be same folks.
Hanifa, you have managed to free 4 of your sisters, but you have, at the end of the film, we still have one of your sisters, Bassi, still missing. Do you have any information about her? When was the last time you heard about her? What can you tell us about her?
Bassi in 2014-2015 in Talafar, Kasr al-Mahrab, were with Sina and Layla, her sisters. After 2015, May, in that time that started separation within families in the captivity between children, male, female, different genders. After May, and separation start, children in some side killing people, and even the woman, which is their age, not good for the marriage, they were killing them. And even children breastfeeding from 2 months and 6 months, they were taking them, and above this age, they were taking them to teach them Quran in the school. Most of the male being killed, and others took it for the slaves. In 2015 May, since that time, as to have a direct contact, I don't have any other information. But in 2018 March, I saw one of her picture on YouTube. Jaysh al-Hurr in Syria, they published and say this family, this is the cost for their liberation, $30,000. In that time, I tried to contact with this page to contact them, but it's not working anymore. And this moment, I don't have any other correct information or direct contact with her.
While talking about Bassi, I wanted also to talk about other women who are still in captivity, who are not liberated yet, and maybe you can tell us about other stories and how many of them are still missing after Daesh, after ISIS kidnapped them.
So females, and or we can say who in captivities in general, until this moment around 2,800 female children, youths, they were belong 18 years olds, and some of them still in our whole camp in Aleppo, Adlib, and some other villages in Turkey and in Turkey as well. 3 days ago, one Yezidi lady liberated from Turkey, and whenever ISIS traveled, they were taking Yezidi with them, and they are still existing in Turkey in some secret locations. Maybe some people are aware about it, but part of ISIS were getting support from Turkey. They came from Turkey, and they took my sister for the slaves, raping her, beating her in the captivity. Yezidi in the captivity in different locations, most of them in Al-Hol camp and different locations. Iraqi government and Kurdistan government, they are not supporting us to rescue them. We asked them to create a group from the family who've been victimized, because we don't know our family members. And some Yezidi in the captivity, they cannot say we are Yezidi because they have been brainwashed. If you didn't speak them face to face and convince them that the ISIS were wrong, it's not easy to convince them to return back.
Thank you. Hanna, you are the author of this film. Can you tell us a bit about the background? Which years you filmed it, and how many times you went to Sinjar and to Kurdistan to make this documentary?
I started 2016. And 2016 I went to Germany. I met the women, but mostly I already knew that the women started to speak, so there was a lot of focus on the women's sexual slavery. But I was feeling that this is much more than just this subject. That the children, the old people, the men are completely left behind in talking about the genocide. So when I went to Germany, I mostly wanted to meet actually with men. And when the people started to show me the pictures in their phones, I quickly realized the film is not in Germany. Why in Germany? Because there was a group of 1,100 women and children who were like the most tragic victims of the genocide, taken for psychological treatment, and then they were offered to become refugees in Germany. So when I saw the pictures, I decided the story is really in Iraq. No matter how difficult it will be to reach, I have to go there and talk with people there. I went to Kurdistan, and I was very lucky very quickly to get on the side, which is like impossible because I went on the Iraqi side. Basically, I went to Sinjar, which normally you don't get permission to go. And then I was actually the first person who came to Kocho just after liberation. Kocho was liberated in 2017 in the end of May, 28th of May. And I went to Kocho just, I don't know, maybe less than 2 months after the liberation. So it was very important for me to go to these sites of massacres and film as much as possible before these places are like gone because of the weather, because of the... They were also destroyed, you know. Some of the places of the massacres were destroyed, not to allowed for the like they were burned, for example. So basically, this was how I started it, and then first 3 times I had people coming with me, but it was so dangerous that they resigned. So all the other trips, I went alone, completely alone. Like I would take all the equipment, I would do the sound, the filming. Sometimes I had someone who was translating, but sometimes this was not even possible. So I try my best to feel more than to understand exactly what was being spoken. But I also try to save the time because, of course, even if I was 1 month in Iraq, I knew this is so precious because the permissions are going to end, the visas, everything. It was very difficult to get them. So I was trying to film as much possible to worry about the translation later. So this was basically my focus. And also you have to understand that I really wanted to focus on Hanifa's story. And I met Hanifa's sisters and mother first in Germany. And then I was brought to Hanifa, not knowing that I already met her sisters. So only after she spoke about everything, I realized I already have the footage from Germany. So then we started to work together, but then, you know, this is a dispute territory. The whole problem of this area is this is a dispute territory. It's between parties, between Kurdish side, between Iraqi sides, and this is a border also with Syria. So it's a really like a dangerous place, still dangerous, still disputed. There are military actions going on. And in 2017, when I went to Kurdistan, I was able to enter from the Kurdistan, and I could not come from Baghdad because Mosul was still under ISIS control. So I wasn't able to, you know, the Mosul is on the way. There are only 2 ways. Either you come from Kurdistan or you come from Mosul. So from Baghdad. So Mosul was still under ISIS. And then what happened? There started to be a conflict, military conflict between Peshmergas, between Kurdish and Iraqi side. like Iraqi Hashdashabi and all this conflict. So basically they were pushed out of Sinjar, which was partially controlled by them. So I couldn't also come via Kurdistan because Kurdistan completely blocked all the checkpoints and completely sealed the border. And then the flights were not coming for 8 months to Sinjar, so I mean to Kurdistan. So I couldn't work with Hanifa. So I went to Baghdad, and this is how I met Said, and I started to follow Said's story. And then Hanifa would come from time to time when she managed to the Sinjar side. And then I was coming through Baghdad. So I don't know, I cannot answer how many times, but I was there many times.
Yes, this is important to underline. Although Erbil is just 2 airplanes away from Geneva, right? You take 2 airplanes and then in a few hours you are in Erbil. But reaching Sinjar up to today, it's very, very complicated. Not because of lack of transportation means, but because of conflicts and because of checkpoints and because of political and military difficulties to reach Sinjar up to today. I want to ask another question to Hanna. It is extremely difficult to ask women questions about rape. It is even more difficult for Yezidi women who come from this part of Iraq, very traditional society. We just saw in the interviews, right, about marriages, about tribal relations. Still, you manage in your documentary to talk about these issues. Can you explain how it was possible to talk about this very difficult, very painful experience?
Well, you know, my focus was also, I was upset seeing how this sexual slavery and the subject is kind of exploited in some programs, because I felt this is like sensational. It's like victimizing these people for the second time. So for me, it was very important to, like, I wouldn't focus on it, because this is why my focus was basically the genocide. But of course, this rape or the sexual slavery is a part of it. So if people wanted, naturally talk about it. And sometimes they really wanted. So we did. If they didn't want to talk, I was very delicate, very careful with asking those kind of questions and exploring this as a subject. Sometimes I remember I was furious when I saw how people were, like, I don't know, there was a program, for example, I was raped, it was entitled like this, I was raped every day for half a year. And for me, this was like, it's a very delicate issue to deal with. I mean, people didn't have a problem oftentimes to talk about it, but I had a problem in making kind of like victimizing these people again. I was thinking it's more important to show the beauty of the people, the culture. Like look up. I just love the Yezidi traditions, their hospitality, their culture, their religion, their philosophy, their ethics. There is so many things to look up to that I just prefer to focus on this one, and I hope this comes out from the film. And of course, you have to give this subject of this, like, I don't know, even Wodha, for example, spoke with me, but I was feeling, you know, do we really need it? Or, you know, other people, they were speaking about some issues. And do you really need, we already know, yes? We already understand what is going on. Is this the most important? Isn't this more important that these people have, like, really deep, important thoughts, hearts, that they focus on other people, etc. So I think this was my main kind of focus, and I hope this comes from the film.
I have one more question to you, Hanna. The film is largely about Yezidi women, and it should be. I mean, we should all talk about what happened to them, their experience in the past, and they're still suffering today. But the film is also about Yezidi men. Unfortunately, Said, who is in your film from Kocho, who's the brother of the world-famous Nadia Murad, the 2018 Nobel Peace Prize winner, Said was supposed to come and take part in this debate. Unfortunately, he's not here. But I want also to talk about what happened to Yezidi men, because this is a gendered genocide. It's not like some other genocides, where the génocidaires, they didn't make any difference in gender. In the case of ISIS, in the case of Daesh, they made a difference. They killed men, as we saw with Said. They tried to kill him. He survived. He crawled out of his mass grave. But also we have young boys that we saw in the story of Sufyan, whose nom de guerre was Abu Aish al-Kurdi. So I want also a bit to talk about them, what happened to them, and what we can say about Yazidi men.
I think this was one of my first biggest shocks, because I went to Masin, who was talking with Said, and I met him in Germany first time without Said first, and I was prepared to come and talk about him surviving the massacre. And his story is absolutely amazing, you know, because he was shot with all the men, but he stepped out and he said to ISIS, before they started shooting, he said, look, you can kill us men, but why are you killing children? There were children, like his nephew was, I don't know, 12 or 14 years old. So he said, those kids, they know nothing about God, about Allah, or about Hodeh, as Yézidis call God, or Tausimelek, which is their angel, which they worship, they respect. So he asked, why would you do this? And this man said, if you are so eager to be killed, because he said, kill me, don't kill the kids. He said, the ISIS said, we will kill you and the boy as well, but if you are so eager to be killed, we will kill you first. So the man started to shoot, but one time his Kalashnikov didn't work, second time his Kalashnikov didn't work, and the third one, he doesn't remember anything. See, he doesn't know what happened. He only woke up after he gained his consciousness back after a few hours, and he came out from all the bodies and he was checking, like all the people who were at this time there were already dead, including Sahira's husband. Sahira was the woman who was talking about the baby who was killed by ISIS, her 1-year-old child, Tulay. And she didn't know if her husband was dead or not at the time when I spoke with her, because I spoke with Moshin after. And we analyze it, and we think he just lost his consciousness. Probably out of emotion, he probably fainted, and they thought they killed him. And then after this, and ISIS was coming and shooting additionally, and this is how probably he got this scarf only on his hand. And I was thinking, I'm gonna film the story, because this is an amazing story of survival, of testimony, what happened to the men. And when I came there, he told me this story, but then he told me he really wants to tell me something. And this is the moment when he took the phone and he showed me his little brothers being brainwashed and committing suicide, basically exploding themselves on Iraqi army. And I was so shocked, like I was completely speechless. I went with another friend of mine who was a cinematographer, and when we were returning back, we couldn't even speak to each other. And then I went to the website, like to YouTube, to look for this video, because he didn't give us the video, so I wanted to find the video. And then I found all these commentaries of people like, oh great, one less, oh this is good, yeah, you crazy. And then I felt like this is such a tragedy, because these children were basically taken away and completely brainwashed. And I spoke with Sufyan a lot about it, and I asked him, did you try to escape? And he said, yes, I did. But I was caught, and I was so badly beaten. They hung me upside down, and they were beating my feet, my legs. I thought I will never walk again. So they basically tortured him. After this, he never dared to escape again. And then they were in between. They were not together with ISIS. ISIS would send those kids in front to fight oftentimes. So they are killed first, and then if they were not fighting, the ISIS would kill them. So we are talking about something which is on many levels tragedy. And of course they were brainwashing them, they were giving them drugs, they were doing a lot of things like this. So we have a situation in which basically we don't even understand what these people went through. And of course this man's story, this was actually very good for me that I met Said, because I felt we have a women's side and then we have a men's side, so he can represent, and both sides are completely heartbroken, both sides are crushed. I mean, I know so many men who managed to survive, but they are still dying. Some committed suicide after the war, after liberating, you know, some of these people were fighting. Some of them, they became incredible fighters. They became incredible, like if you want to look for somebody who is so brave and someone you honor, you can find such personalities who were basically liberating women, liberating children, bringing on their own shoulders old women from under the fire of the shooting. So this is something also which makes me very humbled in front of such a bravery and such a self-sacrifice.
I want just to make two remarks on the fate of these Yezidi boys being kidnapped and turned into Daesh fighters. This reminds us, right, Ottoman history, where the Ottomans also kidnapped Christian children and made them Ottoman fighters, the janissaries, les janissaires. So there's a long tradition in the region, which is history is reminding us that the past is not the past is still there.
And can I comment on this?
Please.
Because actually what you said is a beautiful also story in Yezidi history, because I think it was 2014, if I'm correct, when during the Ottoman Empire, or maybe earlier, but there is a very famous Yezidi hero, which his name is Hanna, and he was from the Fakir tribe, like Hanifa, and he was approached by Christians during one of those fear months, when the Ottoman Empire wanted to kill Christians, and they approached Hanna and they asked for shelter in Sinjar mountains, so exactly the mountains you saw. And Hanna said, absolutely, we will give you shelter. And the empire came to him, the Ottomans sent an envoy and said, okay, if you do not give these people to us for slaughter, we will slaughter you. And he said, we will not give these people. And there was a lot of fighting, many Yezidi people died, but many of these Christian people were saved, and actually then later it was stopped, so some of these people survived. But I just want to say that they even naked this envoy and sent back as an answer to so this is also something which is like really amazing for me, because this is what I said, you know, these people are brave, kind. I mean, like, I would love them as my neighbors, which I hope brings us also to a subject how we can give the shelter, maybe after you have the second comment, but how we can help these people.
Indeed, the event you mentioned happened in 1915 and 1916, when during the genocide, Armenians and Assyrians found refuge in Sinjar mountain, and the Yezidis protected them in spite of Ottoman insistence and pressure to hand over those Christians to be massacred. And the Yezidis did not. They protected the Christian, Armenian, Assyrian deportees. But I also wanted to mention something else, is that 2014, we are in a big war in the Middle East, right? Iraq is in an internal war. There's power struggle between different factions. But the Yezidis were not part of that struggle. The Yezidis were not asking for more power. The Yezidis were not asking for oil money. The Yezidis were outside this struggle. And what is important for us to understand was that Yezidis were attacked with no reason. No geopolitical analysis would explain what happened to the Yezidis. No analysis bringing the USA, Russia, China, Iran, and Turkey together would not explain what happened to them. This is what happens in genocides. Genocides are the result of ideology. It's not the result of politics. So I will now come back to Hanifa and ask about her now, what she's doing now, where she is living, and how her family is surviving after this experience. Where are her sisters right now, and what she can tell us about her family now?
1 minute. Just to get the notebook.
So my question to you is,
سؤالم اگه اشتباه
can you tell us about your life now, where you are living? What is the situation with your family, with your sisters? What can you tell us about your life today?
الكردستان تعيشه
I'm living in Kurdistan, currently in Dohuk province, in Christian village, belong to Semel, between Semel and Dohuk. Currently, my situation, it's complicated. Yes, I managed to survive 4 of my sisters from fifth, but my sister Watha, she didn't meet her brother been 4 years ago, and we know the German rules. My brother Adel, 2 sisters and mother, they are living there in German, but according to their school, they cannot return back to Iraq, and Watha also don't have availability always to go there. And my sister Watha and Hina, who living with me in Iraq, both of them living in very bad mental health situation. And my 3rd sister, who get married and living with her husband, they divorced because her husband were not good and not supporting her and sometimes beating her. So that's why she also joined me with her kids, which I take care about her as well. And now I am here in this festival. I cannot publish any picture. Then Asaish, which is intelligence in KRG, they will invite me and they will make an investigation with me why we are there. And the problem, I cannot leave Iraq, as some of my family members remaining there. If my family, they manage to join their mothers, then I know in which way how to defend myself. Now I am here that I am still thinking about my family. 2 days before I reached here, intelligence in Kurdistan, they invited me and they were asking me question, why you are going to the conferences? And I already explained to them, this is a genocide. We faced a lot, and we are speaking about it. When people invite me, I have to accept to speak. But the problem when I return back, I faced problems.
So I would like to remind us that Watha, who was also in the film, she's present here with us. And so your family currently is divided between part of the family in Iraq, in Duhok, and part of your family in Germany. And I imagine that this is very common today with Yezidi families, the families scattered around the world between Iraq and European countries. Can you tell us about why this is so and why Yezidis, now that ISIS, now that Daesh is not there, they cannot go back to their homes, to their villages, to their city Sinjar and rebuild? Why they can't do that?
First of all, I just focus on my family first. Separation of our family, one still in the captivity under control of ISIS, was some part of the family in German, part in KRG, living in Seje. When, if like example, if I want to return to my home village, my house destroyed, there is no health services, municipality services. If there is a patient within a family, they have to travel for 2-3 hours from Sinjar to Duhok, either to Mosul to referral them. And the second thing regarding security and airstrike from Turkey conducting PMF, population mobilizing, Sinjar, it's very difficult to living. Some people living there, they just protect themselves. Now I am here. We know what happened to my family. ISIS, they were slaving my sisters, raping them, selling them. And I am here today to speak about it. But why our government not speaking about it? Why they let ISIS to come to take my sister, to raping them, to slave them? But whenever we speak about what has happened to us, intelligence from KRG and government, they are arresting us. And if you want to speak, more prefer to back to Sinjar and to accept this condition, airstrike from Turkey, militia over there. Until this moment, nothing has been changed. Just for 3rd of August, 2014, change the date. Nothing more. Because if we are speaking about our situation in general, IDPs been burned. Their tent never be changed. Burning tents daily. Children, women burned inside their tents. And then 1,800 Yézidis still in the captivity. We need to liberate them. Regarding reef structure, houses in general been destroyed totally. And there is no services. And we are Yézidi, each family have a specific situation. Some family, their family member in captivity, some family members living in Iraq, some in Germany, and some rest family member, they are in the massacres. Sinjar situation in general, it's very, very complicated, and it's conflict area. Hina and Watha, they were many years in the captivity, but now many of survivors of ISIS, they are orphans, even they don't have parents, and they don't have living basic condition to take care about their life. Those NGOs present within Yezidi community, some of them work, but majority of them, we can say their services zero in IDPs and even in Sinjar. Now here I am asking and advocating for my people to get support, because what they are facing, it's something not easy, specifically when you survive from a genocide and you don't have a lot of the bread to eat. When you are sick, you cannot get medication, and some people like Sufyan been cut their leg or hands, or still some bullet part in their body, and some of them, they need some urgent surgery. And this kind of surgery, it's not available in Iraq, or if there is available, they don't have that cost of financial support. I know many story. I know some survivors of ISIS. They are orphan and they need a surgery, and who can support them? Many females who, because of the raping by different people, individually and as a group, they were raping them. They need some specific surgery, but they cannot find these services available, and no one supporting.
In the documentary, we saw how, in the case of Said, those who attacked Kocho is a big village south of Sinjar, town of Sinjar, which was attacked and a massacre took place there. So Said tells us that those who attacked him, they are their neighbors. They are, Arab villages who lived south of Kocho. And those people who were shooting at them, they were not foreigners, they were people who knew each other. So basically, when we talk about Daesh here in Europe, and when Hanifa talks about, or Said talks about Daesh, these are very different things. My question to you, Hanifa, is how is the situation now? There are some Yezidis who went back to Kocho and other villages. And there are some of the Arab inhabitants who went back to those villages around Kocho. How is the relationship between Yezidi and Arab today? Are there efforts to talk about what happened? Are there efforts to reconciliation?
Those people that they were part of these criminals and what has happened against Yezidi in the massacres, this is very difficult to living together with them. Again, some people been raped my sister and killed my parents. How I will accept to live with them in same area? It's something unbelievable and it's not easy. And in same time, we saw them, those criminals, they returned back to their villages and homes. But Yezidis, we are the victims, we couldn't manage to return yet. Very, very few people returned back to Kocho village. They are in Kocho just to protect their massacres, not to live seriously over there. ISIS from our area, it's not some of them, they're coming from Afghanistan or Tunisia or US or Europe, and they integrated to ISIS and they were making business selling Yezidis. Of course, they were our neighborhoods. They opened a gate for the ISIS, foreigners, we can say. And because those our neighborhood, they were having all understanding all our cultures and who we are as a Yezidi and passing this information to them to killing us.
Thank you. Hanna, when was the last time you went back to Sinjar, and what is the security situation since then? Hanifa talked about airstrikes, talked about all the security challenges for Yezidis to go back home. What can you tell us about it?
Well, first of all, Sinjar is in the northern Iraq area where there is a lot of Sunni. So this is the part which, you know, especially there is a lot of extremism, yes. I'm not saying that every Sunni is extremism, but also it's true that every ISIS is Sunni, yes. So this is very important that this area is still populated by many people who are very hostile to the Yezidis or even to people like me. So it was very dangerous to move around for me also, because as you could see, we had a car exploded just in front of our car, and we waited for many hours before the army came and cleaned the road, and 12 people died and 4 cars were exploded. So we were just tinged from it. We almost stepped on the mines a few times with even Hanifa. We were walking around the mines, but also with Said. And actually, the person who brought us by car wanted to go by car, and I said no, because we don't want car in the footage. And I think if he would come, he would probably be exploded, because exactly where the road was, we found the mine. So you have to understand this is still full of mines. The ISIS put mines inside of the Yezidi house. And sometimes people can live for a few months and don't know that one day they will explode, because the mine will be activated by some situation. When we spoke with Sufyan, he said they even planted mines which react to your blinking. So if you blink a few times, the mines, I don't know how to do it, but supposedly this is what he told me, that they planted different mines. He knows about it because he was planting those mines for ISIS in Kocho also. So there is a danger coming from every direction. We went in the, very close to Sinjar, maybe 40-something kilometers, if I remember correctly, Tel Afar is. Tel Afar was the place where Hanifa's sisters were kept in Kahreb Maharab, which is a prison, a citadel. So they were kept there for slavery, for the ISIS from Tel Afar, but some were sold to Syria also. So the people from Tel Afar join. So there's many people who are still like, okay, they change the clothes, they shave the beard, but they are still in heart extremists. There are still ISIS. They just not allowed, maybe, but from time to time. Like for example, I was in Mosul. I was waiting for a meeting with a general, Al-Jabouri, and we were waiting in a cafe. And he didn't come because he was on a mission. He was flying helicopter to some conflict area. And we went to have a dinner, and then we were waiting. And then I felt, this is so bad, I am just alone. A woman sitting in the restaurant, in a cafe, drinking coffee in the evening, wearing exactly the clothes I am wearing right now. So I said, we have to go but I was worried because I had to cross checkpoints, and I went to Kurdish side. I prefer to go to Kurdish side even if I wouldn't be able to return because it was so dangerous. And 2 days after, the cafe, the restaurant where we had the dinner was bombed. So you kind of like walking around these problems all the time. There were recently some ISIS came from Syria, and they were killing Yézidis. They killed 2 Yézidis in some more empty village, and then the Yézidi security from Sinjar, Al-Ali and his people went to hound them down because they were just dangerous for the people. So it is very close to Syria. It's basically on the border with Syria. We know that there is a lot of ISIS still in Syria. So they sometimes run away. Now, for example, recently they came from the prison. So we are having the situation, and even when we went to Tel Afar area to film, exactly where the Yezidi battalions were fighting to liberate this from ISIS together with Hashdashabi, they were liberating in 2017 those areas, and including Sinjar villages. So we found the ISIS family already living in this, the very tribe of the people who were hurting Hanifa's sister were already living there, and they were not nice when we came. So you are kind of like all the time. And then, okay, so we went there one day, and when we returned, and 2 days later, exactly on this checkpoint, all Iraqi army was killed. So I don't know how many, 6 people or whatever, they were shot down. So you can understand that this is all the time conflict area, it's all the time a problem. But one thing which I really want to address, which you started to talk about, this situation starting from 2003, and then Yezidis not being affected at this time so strongly. But of course, I'm talking about the Iraqi war, but Yezidis were very much affected because this, I will put it, this regime change wars, which are basically arranged by some countries, Western countries, different countries. You probably know which countries. So we are waging those, or our leaders are waging those regime change wars. They lie to us about the weapon of destruction, and they come in the name of democracy. I want to ask what democracy is now in Iraq. Killing, raping, destruction, tears, the fanatism, the sectarianism is on rise. And after this war in 2003 was waged, before people were not allowed to hold those kind of very hostile view towards each other religion. But when it happened, yeah, there was always a conflict in this area. But I mean, not like Yezidis were felt generally more safe in the country. Right. Then later on, around 2008. Around Mosul area, there were put by the ISIS ideology extremist people checkpoints, false checkpoints, which were stopping the people and checking their RD. And if the people were, for example, Christians or yézidis, they were persecuted. People were hung on poles. So we are talking about this area, which basically, the fact that after liberation of this place, 2017, 2018, I was able to just sit in a cafe and I was not killed. It is like a miracle still. Of course, I still can be killed because it's dangerous, but I mean, you have to understand that all this conflict done under this really high names, democracy, etc., they actually pushing these people, same with Libya, same with other places. I mean, like, I am asking you as people, we, the people, when we say enough to all of this, and this is my biggest anger in my heart, because no one is holding responsible for those who are getting these huge military budgets, who are having business basically in those areas by selling weapon distractions and having contracts for rebuilding it. And we are dealing with the human lives, with the human tragedy, with things which are not, you cannot undo. You cannot change people fate, the fact that people died, the fact that people suffer, etc. And this is going on. It's going on now in Ukraine. And this is something which makes me, when we as people start demanding from those who are in power, stop it, you know, to stop it. I think it's enough is enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hanna. Thank you very much, Hanifa, for your words, for your thoughts. We have half an hour left, and I pass it to the public for your questions. If you have questions.
There is a question.
There is a question there. Could anyone pass it?
I can repeat the question. Where is the ISIS coming from? Okay.
Bonjour. Ma question.
Hello.
Ma question.
My question is the following.
D'où vient ISIS?
Where
is
the-
ISIS coming from?
Is Hanifa asking this question to me?
Is this question addressed to Hanifa?
السؤال ايش حنيفة؟
Sufyan, you didn't hear, but it was also a part of question. We heard they come from the Saddam Hussein previous army. So can you clarify where really ISIS comes from?
I cannot tell you where ISIS is coming from exactly. But what we saw, they were taking and doing violations against not only Yezidi, even Christians, and they give to Christian 24 hours to withdraw from their area. They caught their money, gold, everything, and even some Christian also been enslaved. But mainly Yezidi and Christian, they were victims to kill all of them. And this is their goal of Islamic State, to pushing all Yezidi and Christian to convert all Yezidi to Islam religion. And all my respect to Muslim religion and some Muslim religions people, they also supported us, and they stand with us. I have many Muslim friends. We work together. Some Muslim, they support me to liberate my sisters. But unfortunately, some others joined ISIS, and they did criminals against Yezidi and Christian. They tried to implement this Islamic rule in all Iraq. ISIS, they were saying anyone not Muslim, he is unbelievable. Even Christian, Yezidi, and even Shia, who they are Muslim already. This is what they were focused to destroy all city and all towers or something like Sinjar Tower, but the main of their goal to kill all Yezidi and Christian, to make a genocide against us.
May I answer? First of all, the main ISIS came from Syria. I think the people were part of this Al-Nusra and other organizations, and I think part of them were so-called moderate rebels. So they came from Syria, and around this time, 2014, I remember in one of the interviews, and one of these ladies who later became Kocho victim, absolutely horrifying story. On her very eyes, she saw how ISIS was burying the women like Said's mother and her mother, and she was one in line for it, but then the Tel Afar people call for the slaves, so she was saved. So she was the only one survived from this massacre, but everything happened in front of her eyes. She saw how to 11-year-old boy ISIS gave AK weapon, and it was only 44 bullets, but there was 83 women, and they were killed with this one magazine. So it means some were wounded, some were killed. Most of them, they were not really killed, and then they were buried alive in this Solah area where exactly Said is. So this is the story. And this woman, she told me that since the thing started to go wrong in Syria, she was glued to the TV. She felt something is going really wrong, and she was like all the time on TV because she felt it's like war coming. As they tried to escape, but then they were pacified by the security forces and told to return because they are there to protect them, so they were basically betrayed. And then the ISIS entered from Syria, weaponized. They came to Mosul. They took Mosul immediately. The Iraqi army retreated. They took all the weaponry, etc. People raised and protected. You have to also understand that there were already protests going on against the government in 2014, so it was kind of easy. The people joined because they were already displeased with the security, with the services, etc., with the payments. So they kind of joined ISIS because, I don't know, maybe they thought they will have a better life under this government. Like ISIS. So anyway, they joined and they came. It was only a few hundred people. I don't know how many, Hanifa, came and took your sisters. How many was in Tel Azir farm? How many of them came? How many? And the local people joined them, yeah. So how many the Tel Azir farm?
In
that time that ISIS came, and if I am not wrong, only 2 vehicles, 2 or 3 vehicles, I don't remember exactly, but ISIS came, they were very few, but their weapons were very, very strong. And they took more than 35 females and they killed all the males. And we know those ISIS who came, they were not foreigners at the beginning. Foreigners, maybe they come to control part of the area or to take something, money or something else. But those our neighborhoods, they know it's very hard for the Yezidi man if someone raping his family members. It's part of the dignity. And they were collaborating how to kill all Yezidis, not only some few thousands been kidnapped and killed. They were focusing on Yezidi and Christian, but in mountain Sinjar, the remaining of Yezidi who survived from the mountain Sinjar, and in that time we felt that only mountain Sinjar protect us, which we cannot forget that. And this is prevent killing, money raping, and because both government failed to protect us. Now I am telling you what I am saying here. Tomorrow I cannot say something in KRG because in Kurdistan, if I say that, it's fact and which is I have to prevent to even speak about that. and both government didn't support us. And maybe tomorrow, if I return back, the Asaish intelligence will invite me to make an investigation with me.
12,000 people was stationary as army on
12,000
in Sinjar, and they retreated. They
12,000 قوات عسكري موجود بين بيشمركة والشنغال.
terrorize the people, and then they cut the kocho, which is like the most
وان ريل بالعالم يقرت والخاصة كوجو جنيلان بالرفن.
so the most far from the mountains. They cut. They put the checkpoint.
منطقة باعتبار الشيعة يدور ودونزا رجع المهم يعني نهلا بالرفن.
Military operation, nothing. People were just left alone to basically die. And I don't.
كوجو هذا محاصر كرين يكيجي بينفنشو ندعم عسكري.
You know, we are just fighting for these goodies. You know, these goodies which belongs to God. When this what is most precious, the human life, the human dignity, the human love. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you very much. There's another question there.
Oui. Mesdames, merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Thank you for this beautiful film. I have two questions. The first question is for Hanna,
Est-ce que vous
the director.
allez projeter votre film
Are you going to show your film in Armenia? Because to my knowledge, Armenia is the only country in the world where the Yézidi language is taught as an official language in state school. And it's also the only country in the world which has built for the Yézidi community, the Yézidi community being the biggest minority community in the country. Armenia built the biggest Yézidi temple in the world. Are you going to show your film in Armenia? I'm pretty sure that the Yézidi community will be extremely grateful for your work. My second question goes to Hanifa Mao.
Vous savez, Darwin disait
You know, Darwin used to say, it's not the smartest nor the strongest that survive,
su s'adapter.
but those who have managed to adapt. So my question is the following.
De Yézidis qui ont été
How many do you think, how many
Vous pensez que pour la
Yézidis have had to convert? And for the culture of your people, do you think these people are lost forever and won't be able to perpetuate the identity of your people? Thank you.
بشتي بقريانا مالت خو قصدي وا
So you mean
از بيجم هر يكي مثلا عادات وتقاليد خو غير
but I see people in some circumstance situation, they are changing their culture just to save their life. It's not mean they are totally changed. And that is why they've been brainwashed, impacting them. And when return back, then we try to support them, how they were childhood life and how parents they were supporting them. And ISIS, they were lying. They killed your parents, your brothers. And this is a real genocide happened against us. And we try to explain all these things to survivors of ISIS to be like, to have like some basic social cohesion to back to normal situation again within Yézidi community. But unfortunately, it's take long time to rebuild them again.
And I answer. It was very important for me that this film is made the way that Yézidi people are happy with it, that is representing them. This is their film. If they would like to show it in Armenia, I would love it. But honestly, I would love to show it this everywhere, and especially in Iraq, so it sparks a discussion and people understand what happened. Because believe me, not even many Iraqis understand. I saw some Iraqi army men coming to Kocho not knowing about the situation because just being sent for event and crying when they saw what happened. So I am really hoping that this is something which helps in this reconciliation. I do not want to, when we discuss even those political things, I don't want to really make people be pitted even more against each other. On the opposite, I rather want this film to bring this discussion, this reconciliation, this kindness, this understanding, you know, that we are all human beings, we are beautiful, we have life, we have loved ones. So yes, I would love this film to be shown everywhere, including Armenia, and thank you for this question very much.
Thank you very much. Maybe a last question, if there is one. Yes, please. Here.
Bonjour, je vais me présenter.
Thank you. Let me introduce myself. I am a Yezidi Kurd from Armenia, and this film was overwhelming for me. And I think when you have this hereditary memory, it is very overwhelming. It's the 75th massacre of the Yezidi people. My ancestors also suffered. So thank you all. Thank you, Hanna and Hanifa. I could speak to you in Kurmanji, but unfortunately your language is dominated by Arabic. I don't speak Arabic, but I speak Kurmanji, which is our common language.
از توك شهيدة كي جينوسيدا كردن ازيدين نابين
I see you as a brave champion, as a Yezidi example, how you managed to liberate 4 of your sisters. So proud of you, and hopefully you will liberate the last one. For you, Hanna and Hanifa, I have a question. When this film ended,
quand le film est terminé, parce que je sais que ça va se reproduire. Je sais que mon peuple ne sera pas protégé de nouveau, parce que je ne vois pas ce soutien international de la communauté internationale qui pourrait l'être. Et merci pour vos paroles chaleureuses, Hanna, que vous avez prononcées, et la salle vous a applaudi chaleureusement.
Thank you for all your words. Thank you for everything that you've said. I do admire you. I admire you. You're giving us so much hope. And it's true, your film is very positive, and I wouldn't want anyone to leave this room without hope. I wouldn't want anyone to leave this room thinking about tragedy and suffering. So I will ask you a question. How can the international community, how can the entire mankind that is moved by this film do to protect the Yezidi people? How can we make sure that this pain, the suffering, and that's welcomed in Europe? I've worked with Yezidis, with Yezidi women as an interpreter, as a social worker. These women are suffering so much because part of their family is still in Iraq, in tents, in horrible conditions, and it's very difficult for them. They are suffering so much. We asked a question in France, but we didn't get any answer. How can these families, which are torn apart, build a future for them? Because what they have in Europe is not a real future. I would like to help them build their own future on their sacred lands. This people was there even before Christ. They kept their culture of angel. This is a very peaceful people that needs to be protected. Please give me hope for the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your question. And excuse me, just give me some enough time, because there is something else I want to focus on. That thanks to everyone today for the participants who attended a screening, just to understand what's happened against to the Yezidi. It's my demanding or my asking for all the people and government and country, especially Swiss and all the countries, to collaborate together to see how to find a solution to liberate all these Yazidi ladies from the captivity, and put yourself in the situation of Yazidi mother who've been lost her children since 7 years ago, or their family members still in the massacres, their corpse, and which is they cannot identify them yet. What has happened, it's a genocide. And although what has happened, we are still need medical support, part of that, surgeries, leg being cut, and generally there is a big need and humanitarian needs. And some of them, they need some kind of surgery in abort, not only in the country. Some of them, they don't have $5 per day or per month to buy something for living condition, and their houses from the mud, they cannot make a concrete houses. It's fine, and transportation to get some water by dogs, and our tent been burning from time to time. Some people, what they believe, there is good enough support through NGOs supporting Yazidi community, but in fact, this is not enough. We need more and more, and we are being neglected by both government, and there is airstrike, which is conducting from time to time. I'm asking all of you, please, to advocate for the Yazidi and to help those people been missing to join their family for their liberation.
Bashi Hushke, Galak Memnun, Hivya Hode.
Thank you, sister. Thank you, sister. Something words in Yazidi that you know.
I want to say one thing. Why I cry? Because I was thinking about women who are so strong, so beautiful, so amazing. And I can tell you something, because you were saying about hope. We are all facing now very difficult time for different reasons, economical, health-wise, etc. You know, war, who knows what else is in plans. The humanity, as we can see, always prevails. It takes time. It's not necessary that we go through all these things, but this is my biggest hope, this is the humanity, the beauty. This is what I see on this destruction, this love, kindness, bravery, hospitality. You know, I was in Sinjar. I was at people's house I didn't know. I was waiting for Sufyan to come to translate, who is now working here. And I put my head, and then brought me pillows. And then I fall in sleep, and I felt how they putting a blanket over me. They went through war, they experienced all of this, and they just care for me. They kind, they wonderful. This is the humanity. This is gonna prevail, but these people, yes, they need support. They need even a little bit of help can change people's lives. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Hanifa. Thank you, Hanifa. Thank you, Wadha, for coming all the way from Iraqi Kurdistan to Geneva. Thank you very much for your efforts. Thank you, Hanna, for this amazing film.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for being here, present at FIFDH, and all of those who are following us online. Also, thank you very much.
Thank you, festival. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.